Gary Windass is walking a very dangerous tightrope right now, and the famous Weatherfield cobbles are about to shatter right beneath his feet. Our favourite bad boy builder is looking more suspicious than ever, clearly hiding a massive, life-altering secret from his fiercely loyal wife, Maria Connor. We all know the deeply unpleasant Theo Silverton recently met a very grim end, and Gary is currently sitting right at the top of the suspect list after sending a highly intense text message and being involved in a severe property damage incident. But what if the truth is actually even more scandalous? What if Gary isn't hiding a fatal secret, but is instead desperately covering up a deeply passionate betrayal with his former flame, Sarah Platt? If you are ready to unpack all the juicy secrets, hidden agendas, and wildest fan theories currently rocking the street, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to CoronationST update right now so you never miss out on our daily drama deep dives. Let us get right into the thick of it, because the situation surrounding Gary is getting incredibly complicated and the tension is high enough to cut with a knife. Theo Silverton was absolutely nobody's favourite person, despite the very convincing mask he wore in public. To the outside world, and especially to those who employed him, Theo acted like a trusted mate, a solid worker, and an all-around decent guy. But behind closed doors, it was a completely different story. The harsh mistreatment and relentless emotional pressure he put on Todd Grimshaw was incredibly difficult to watch. Theo was a classic manipulator, tearing Todd down while keeping his own hands seemingly clean in the eyes of the public. But if there is one thing we absolutely know about Gary Windass, it is that he has a deeply ingrained, almost dangerous hatred for bullies. When Gary gets a whiff of someone mistreating the underdog, a switch flips inside his head. This brings us to that fateful night and the events leading up to Theo's permanent departure from Weatherfield. Gary was seeing red. He completely lost his cool, grabbed a heavy tool, and did some serious, unrepairable damage to Theo's work vehicle. As if completely destroying the van was not enough to put a giant target on his own back, Gary followed it up by sending Theo a deeply menacing text message with the words, "I am coming for you." In the eyes of the authorities, that is basically handing them a motive on a silver platter. Yikes. It certainly does not help Gary's case that his past is already filled with some incredibly dark shadows. He is no stranger to tragic outcomes. We all remember the heartbreaking accidental passing of Rana Habib, a situation where Gary's corner cutting led to a devastating loss of life. And then, of course, there was the fatal encounter with the ruthless loan shark Rick Nealon. Now Gary defended his actions with Rick as a matter of pure self-defense, a desperate move to survive. But it still proves to everyone, including the authorities, that when Gary is pushed to the absolute limit, he is capable of crossing the ultimate line. Because of his history, whenever someone connected to him meets an untimely end, the spotlight naturally swings right back to the builder's yard. Right now, the authorities do not have enough concrete evidence to make an official arrest, and no formal accusations surface just yet. But the walls are definitely closing in. Take, for example, the seemingly innocent wedding photos from Carla and Lisa's big day. In the background of those joyful snaps, who do we see lurking near the exact location of the fatal incident that very same night? Mr. Gary Windass himself. His behaviour ever since that night has been downright erratic, jumpy, and deeply suspicious. If you look at it purely from an investigative standpoint, it looks like a slam dunk. He had the motive, he made the threat, and he was placed at the scene. But hold on to your hats, because there is an incredibly popular theory circulating among die-hard Corrie fans that flips this entire narrative completely upside down. What if Gary's suspicious behaviour, his secrecy, and his desperate need to cover his tracks that night has absolutely nothing to do with Theo's ultimate demise? What if he was doing something else entirely, something that involves a certain blonde resident of the cobbles who knows him better than almost anyone else? Yes, we are talking about Sarah Platt. Before Gary finally settled down and tied the knot with Maria, He and Sarah shared a deeply passionate, emotionally turbulent, on-again, off-again relationship that dominated the screen from 2016 all the way to 2019. They had an undeniable, electric connection. The only reason that relationship ultimately imploded was Gary's tragic descent into the criminal underworld. The secrets and the danger became too much for Sarah to handle. But despite the heartbreak, the two of them have remarkably managed to stay friends. Over the years, there has always been a lingering spark, a quiet understanding between them. Lately, however, it seems like they have grown close again, maybe a little too close for comfort. If we look at the timeline of the night Theo lost his life, it perfectly aligns with another major event. The night Sarah was involved in a highly stressful altercation with Jodie Ramsey. Sarah was left deeply shaken, vulnerable, and in desperate need of a shoulder to cry on. Gary has always had a massive saviour complex when it comes to the women he cares about. He simply cannot help himself from stepping in as the knight in shining armour. The pair have been caught having several hushed, deeply private chats ever since that night. They are constantly exchanging knowing glances, whispering in corners, and stopping their conversations the second someone else walks into the room. It has all the classic hallmarks of a secret romance. Just to make this incredibly messy situation even more juicy, we have to look at who Sarah is currently dating. She is romantically involved with none other than Detective Sergeant Kit Green. Why does this matter? Because Kit is the exact detective spearheading the investigation into Theo's passing. Talk about a massive conflict of interest. Kit is already highly suspicious of Gary regarding the fatal incident. He has been sniffing around the builder's yard, asking probing questions and trying to poke holes in Gary's story. Now, imagine what would happen if Kit discovers that his prime suspect isn't just lying about his whereabouts that night, but is actually engaging in secret intimacy with Kit's own girlfriend. The fallout would be absolutely monumental. Kit could easily use his position of power to completely destroy Gary's life out of pure jealousy and revenge. Through all of this intense scrutiny, Maria has fiercely stood by her man. She loves Gary deeply and wants to believe the best in him, even when the evidence looks terrible. She even went as far as providing him with a completely false alibi to keep the authorities off his back regarding the damaged vehicle. Maria looked the authorities right in the eye and claimed that she and Gary were having some private intimacy time at the builder's yard. She put her own freedom and reputation on the line to protect him, believing she was saving her husband from a false accusation regarding Theo. But Maria's unwavering loyalty might be built on a foundation of absolute lies. She is protecting him from a fatal accusation, completely unaware that he might actually be guilty of a devastating emotional and physical betrayal. Maria is incredibly sharp, and she is already starting to pick up on the subtle shifts in Gary's behaviour. The breaking point, the moment where the veil truly begins to slip, centres around something as simple as a birthday. When Maria casually mentions to Gary that Sarah completely forgot about her own daughter Bethany's birthday, she expects a normal, casual reaction. Maybe a little sympathy, maybe a roll of the eyes. Instead, Gary violently leaps to Sarah's defence. He gets incredibly passionate, visibly agitated, and bites Maria's head off for even daring to criticise his ex. The sheer intensity of his reaction completely takes Maria aback. It is completely disproportionate to the comment she made. She is left standing there, staring at her husband, wondering why on earth he is so deeply invested in defending Sarah Platt over a simple memory lapse. Why is Gary so fiercely protective? A man only reacts with that level of defensive aggression when he has a massively guilty conscience. He is overcompensating because he knows what he has been doing behind Maria's back. That heated defense might just be the very thread that completely unravels this massive secret. Maria is not the kind of woman to just let a reaction like that slide. she is going to start digging. She is going to start replaying the events of the last few weeks in her head, piecing together his absences, his hushed phone calls, and his sudden, overwhelming concern for Sarah's well-being. If the theory holds true, and Gary was indeed sharing some sensual, forbidden moments with Sarah on the night Theo met his maker, the irony is incredibly tragic. His fake alibi for a fatal incident is going to expose a completely different kind of destruction. Once Maria connects the dots and realizes that her husband has been playing away from home with the one woman who has always been a threat to their marriage, all hell is going to break loose on the street.
Maria will realize that the man she lied to the authorities for, the man she risked her own future for, has been making a complete fool out of her. And what about Sarah? She is playing an incredibly dangerous game, juggling a detective who holds Gary's entire future in his hands while sneaking around with her dangerous ex. If Kit uncovers the affair, he might suddenly find the exact piece of fabricated evidence he needs to lock Gary away forever, eliminating his romantic rival and closing a high-profile case all at once. The stakes have literally never been higher for these characters. The brilliance of this storyline is how it plays entirely on Gary's complex history. He is a man who genuinely tries to be good, who wants the quiet family life with Maria, but who is constantly dragged back into chaos by his own impulsive decisions and his undeniable attraction to danger. Whether it is grabbing a tool to smash up a bully's van, or sneaking around in the shadows with the one woman he could never fully get over, Gary is his own worst enemy. The viewers are left completely on the edge of their seats, watching a slow-motion car crash, knowing that the truth, whatever it actually is going to completely devastate several families on the cobbles. So, what is the real truth hiding in the shadows of the builder's yard? Is Gary Windass a man pushed to the absolute edge, hiding the fact that he permanently silenced a cruel manipulator? Or is he a cheating husband, terrified that his slip-up with Sarah Platt is going to cost him the peaceful family life he fought so hard to build? Keep your eyes peeled on Maria, because hell hath no fury like a woman who gave a fake alibi for a cheating husband. The explosion when this secret finally comes to light will be one of the most unforgettable moments in recent street history, and we will be right here to break down every single tear, every single slap, and every single twist.